connection? Well, Lisa McFarland, what does that mean for you?
Connection to me is like just the truth of who we are. Yeah, connection is, I say it's the truth because um, to me, it's just the way that, I mean, it's an undeniable, indisputable fact that we have so much more in common with one another than we do that's different or separate. And it seems like the further away that we move from one another, whether it's politically or professionally, or even in the way that we navigate the world, just, all the folks that we interact with, the little things that happen, that the further away we move from that thing that really connects us, which is just that we're alive,
Yeah.
the more vulnerable I feel that we can become to things that aren't true. Um,
Ooh, wow.
for example, or I was going to say, for example, like that some part of our nature is tainted, or that we're, meant to, that we necessarily have to step on others if we're
Yeah.
going to gain something for ourselves, those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, connection is like I'm a circle, you're a circle. We overlap those two circles, or where do those two circles do they overlap? So there's some people that their circle doesn't even overlap until you get down to the nitty-gritty of just being human beings. And wherever those two circles overlap is what connects us. It's not what separates us. What's in the rest of the circle that's not overlapping is what could separate us if we let it. So yeah, that's where I go with that. Okay, everywhere comes up for you when you think about everywhere.
We don't have to look far to see, um, to experience the connection. Um,
There you go.
because it's not, it's to me, connection isn't just a person to person thing.
Yeah.
It's the interworkings and the dynamic chemistry of oxygen, and how
Ooh.
we breathe it in, and how we cleanse, when we breathe in a new fresh breath, we get some new life force, we release that which no longer serves us into the atmosphere. And then the trees, right,
Yep.
they do their thing with the chlorophyll, and they clean it all up for us. And so there's this ongoing interaction in the atmosphere between me and everything around me. So everywhere is literally just that. It's undeniable if we're open to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's tons of energy in the center of the earth. And so kind of like when heavy energy like starts dropping, it supposedly just drops all the way into the center of the earth where Mother Earth, quote unquote, uh cleanses it and then, brings it back up to a lighter energy.
It's sort of a macro micro um, exercise that goes on, even what you're describing with the earth, that's like a breath in and a breath out. It's on this
Ooh,
very massive level. And
yeah,
then we're like the smaller versions of that. And but we're still a manifestation of that. That's where the everywhere comes in, because you can tell yourself you're not part of that, but if you try to hold your breath,
good
you
luck.
might find that you actually are a part of it.
What goes up must come down. What?
Give it a
Yeah,
shot. Let me know how it works out.
have fun with that. Yeah, and when you deny connection, have fun with that. And when you realize connection is real and that we are connected to everything everywhere, um, we become real. We become more in alignment with ourselves. We slow down and get in touch with our own vulnerability. And also feeling connected to everything is it gives us like a sense of safety. Like we're all in this together. And even when people aren't acting that way themselves, we can still stay calm. We've seen a great show of that politically lately. Just staying calm and just going with the facts, right?
Because we get a sense of, my experience is it's a relief to discover this because it allows me to become less attached to my narratives, my stories, my pretense. I don't have to hold up any kind of a facade because I know the deal. And it's, I don't mean to sound as though, that I know that I have some big secret or something. It's
I
just
know that I
that,
know that I know.
what's that?
I know that I know that I know.
That I know that I know that I know. It's just that most people don't know or haven't been forced to show up without all their gear and their armor on. And when you have to go to, I also call it like going to the mat. Like once you've been to the mat, and what I mean by that is there's nothing else there, it's you and maybe God, depending on where you are with your spirituality or your religious beliefs. But if you haven't been to the mat, you still think that like your hair matters. You still think that the kind of car you drive or your weight or
Oh,
your income, those things are important and we should pay attention to them for
bits.
various reasons,
Mhm.
but they're not who we are. So the fact that discovering that, um, it feels like a relief to me because, as you're saying, an example of in times of turmoil, our ability to stay calm has much to do with our awareness of this connection
Yeah,
because it gives us permission sometimes not even to not react badly, but just to not react
right.
because we know we're part of a bigger dynamic and we're going to let this dust settle and we're going to see what happens next.
Yeah,
We're humans, so that's not always the case.
yeah. And we don't, in that case of connection, it's not about reaction. It's about respond and kind of going with the flow idea too. So,
Receiving what's happening instead
oh,
of
big word.
driving it. Hmm.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I have like a pleasure list instead of like goals.
Oh,
And
I like that.
yeah, and in special ed, as a special ed teacher, and I was all about goals and objectives. And it's like, well, getting into the crone years is like I do what I want when I want, the way I want. And so everything just goes on the pleasure list. And the pleasure list is based on outcomes, how do I want to feel in this moment? How do I want to feel, a year from now? Or, it's not a lot of big visionary planning, but there is like this, okay, what is the ultimate? And then working, backwards from that and taking those like little steps along the way. So, the kind of the idea of a vision strategy roadmap that my husband and I even like put a literal one together for people for free. And it's like you're going to grandma's house and there's different stops along the way. So instead of objectives, it's just stops. And um, those little steps. And what's really cool about that is I like worked with somebody who had 10 kids. Her husband was an alcoholic in and out of the hospital. She homeschooled. Her 10th her 10th baby was getting to be about a year old, and her daughter, her oldest, had had a baby at the same time. And she's a great writer, but she just had no time to write. And so I did the vision strategy roadmap with her, and she constantly knew exactly where she was. And even if she got 5 minutes, she could just
Hmm.
right in there and get her done. And it changed everything for her. So goals to me are high pressure and really sets you up for failure. That's how I've experienced goals. Yeah, and I hated writing them in special ed too, and I never followed them. I
All
just
the IEPs that you had to put together
yes,
and
ma'am.
adhere to. Yeah, I love the way you've described this, Linda, because I think when I worked in the corporate culture, I was a sales leader and I managed sales teams, and I'm bringing that up because one thing that I think happens with goals is that you start to assign value to the steps to get to the goals, and in your haste to make sure you're getting those steps in,
Yeah,
and I know this from experience because I've done it, and my team members have done it, but you start to then misassign or malalign a value with a task, and you start focusing then on the tasks instead of the outcome. You're not saying, like you said, how do I want to feel and what's the best way to
yeah.
get there?
Lost
This
the
would bring me
filter.
great joy. It's just fluff, and you
Yeah,
start to get kind of uber focused or zero in on things that are meaningless, and
yeah,
that's a waste of time.
yeah. And it
So
actually you're
this
coming up with trauma too. It's like using like for lack of better words, the wrong filter. It's like really interesting to watch. And in that,
focusing on the wrong thing.
yeah, yeah. What are you filtering through? Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Okay, and connection is a gift. I would say,
Yeah, because yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
oh, I was like, I would say it's a gift, right? Because your life, I mean, you're not even in fear when you're in connection. Like you said, you get the real deal going, like losing jobs
Takes
or,
the pressure off.
yeah, yeah. And that's the gift of peace, really.
Mhm. And that's, you brought up political just a second ago, but there are a lot of folks now that are federal employees that are losing their employment after giving, 30 years of their life to a particular thing.
Right?
And the truth is, it's very hard to change course. And whatever you might think or whatever our opinions are about what's happening, particularly in our country right now, whatever our opinions are, if you're in that situation, I mean, you can have your opinion, but ultimately, you want to be able to ride this storm and not get crushed by it. And the gift of connection is to, as you said, find that peace and be able to have a sense of this is going to be okay. I don't know how, I don't know what's going to
Yeah.
happen. How
Letting
will
go.
I
Yeah.
have insurance or pay my bills? Those are very real concerns, particularly if you're the provider for your family and things like that.
Yep.
But the truth is, these difficult things do happen, and feeling the connection and being able to see it in others and how are they showing up for this moment in time where something they thought was
Yeah.
so consistent and reliable now is going away.
Yeah.
um, Being
You're
able to connect with others on that experience will keep you from drowning, I
right.
think. It's my
And we have,
experience.
yes, and we have great historical people and situations to follow that
Mhm.
that train of thought as well. So, thank you, Lisa. It's been great.